in New Orleans. They call the rising sun. And it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. In God, I know I'm one.
Welcome to episode 146, Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin, and he is the official co-host of the show, Mr. Dustin Edwards. What does it feel like to be a co-host, a real official co-host?
I've never wanted anything more. And Ted, you're making dreams come true here.
Is this where you play? You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates?
Long cue the Hall & Oates, and I'll
do the dance. Oh yeah, welcome. I appreciate you doing it though, Dustin. Thanks for we've been friends for a long time. Been doing this kind of thing for a long time, so I appreciate you jumping on.
Oh man, I'm a lot of good things have happened in this podcast. Found love. Got to hear the Gator stories.
It's true.
Just all of it. So really, really excited to be a part of it now. So
it's kind of neat though, really. Like we accidentally found you a future wife.
Yeah, that worked out really good.
Right? Like, it's kind of funny though. Like, I don't know, have we ever really broke that down much? Like, I don't know. Like, you two kind of knew each other, but you didn't. But you were in different circles, or not at all. Like, what was the deal?
Never met. Never.
Really?
Weren't connected on any social platforms.
Really? Just never met ever before?
Never, which is funny because I know
That's
you
wild.
guys were before that. Yeah. So
yeah.
Cowboy Shit podcast brought us together, and 4.5 years later, I'm the co-host, and
look at that.
Your love continues.
Man, I'm happy for you guys though. It's kind of neat that two friends could get together like that, just kind of by accident. But that's kind of how probably kind of how the best stuff works. Just
totally
by accident, isn't it?
Yeah, I think those make cool stories, and the best part is we've got it wherever you get your podcasts for the rest of time. So it's one of those things that I'm sure we'll carry on the legacy and play to our children.
Have people said much about it out there to you? Like, what's the feeling for folks that have listened? Yeah, to the one where you guys get hooked up, where we don't really. I guess it's not really that obvious though. It wasn't really for you. You guys were on a side portion of that show essentially.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's fun when people say, "How'd you guys meet?" When you say a podcast, people are like, "Huh?
What?"
Yeah, it's not Tinder or Bumble or at a bar, right? So
yeah, true. Or at somewhere. Yeah, podcast. Like, I wonder if that's ever happened before.
We might be the first.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Well, anyways, I'm happy to have you on the show, and as you can tell, I don't know if I've ever done a show in my full rodeo gear, but we literally just got done the Perf and Pinoca, and I wanted to make sure we got this done. So first Perf and Pinoca's in the books. This show's coming out on Wednesday, so Monday Night Perf's down. We got a full week, the rest of the week here. First one's in the books, though, was pretty solid rodeo. I thought did my production logs, and we were 6 minutes ahead of schedule by the end of it, so it's nice to finish one early.
Yeah, you guys were clicking along good. I was tuned in on the Cowboy channel tonight. We were watching from home, and that rodeo it banged off really good. It was impressive.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really good. The rest of the week, I'm looking forward to the rest of the week. We got a lot more content later on in the week, so gonna have some bigger shows. But yeah, gonna be a great week. Glad to have the crew from Feature here. Glad to work with Les and Dr. Lynn and Ash Cooper. I only get to work with him. It's kind of the only place I've ever really got to work with Ash at. So I enjoy that. And who am I missing? Alicia, like I think I already said the Feature guys and the whole Pinoca Stampede committee. There's lots going on here, but we're getting it done. So it's a nice week. And we're camping.
It's a rodeo, and you're camping.
Yeah, we're camping.
Lots on the camper.
So far, it's nicer this year than it was last year. Last year was pretty cold and rainy the whole week, so I feel better off. So it's not cold when you have to shower in the camper, It's less awful that way.
Yeah, and camping showers are either really good or really bad.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are. But man, I had some notes here that if I wouldn't have looked at them, I might have forgot. But the Calgary Stampede put out their bigger and better format for this year's rodeo and hyped it up about how awesome it is. And then I've and last show we had Will Osler, Calgary Stampede president, chairman of the board, on the show, and that list came out like that same week that he was on. But then we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So Dustin, first off, I'm gonna throw the ball over to your court. What are your thoughts on the Stampede, the new format? So for those that don't know, first off, the new format, 3 pools instead of 2. Going to go to what is it now? Is it 30 contestants per event instead of 20? Yeah. So a 50% increase in contestant numbers. What else? That's kind of it. I guess wild card Saturday's gone.
Yeah, no more wild cards. So you just run the 3 pools and
top 9 must advance. It must not be it must just be top 9 now that go to Sunday. I don't know how they'd get the 10th person. If it's top 3.
Top 3, I do believe, goes into Sunday, right? So
yeah,
they eliminate the wild card round and
eliminate somebody on. Yeah. So what are your thoughts first off?
Well, I mean, if initially you're excited because you're thinking, wow, they're increasing the number of contestants that are coming to Calgary, and in your head you're thinking, oh, this is going to open the door for a lot more people we might know, but I don't think that was the case. So I guess, quite candid, it's kind of like more people, but not really Canadian content wise. So
yeah,
that was the feeling I got. It was kind of like, oh, this is awesome. More guys. You kind of get rid of that wild card thing, which is cool sometimes if it works out. But I think the lack of Canadians in the addition of the increase was really disappointing.
Well, so I did some numbers and looked back because I always used to keep track of how many Canadians went to Calgary. It was kind of something that I looked at with NFR and what else with Canadian stock going different places, and Calgary was always one that was interesting about Canadians because there's formerly 6 events. There's no team roping, no breakaway, but 6 events, so 120 contestants. And previously there were kind of like 25 to 32 between I think 2012 and 2018 or 19 when I was last keeping track. But I also I need to go back and look at what I sent, because I remember sending this to Sean at one point. And I might have sent it to you too, right? Did I send you all these stats?
No, I've never seen that.
Oh, my bad. I sent a little thing because I was going to write a piece and I haven't got to it yet. Been a little busy, but okay. So yeah, I wrote a whole thing here. By my math, there are the same amount of same number of Canadian contestants now. So there's 31 this year, and there were 26 in 2018, and then there were 32 in 2015 and 2016, and 27 in 2014. So the numbers are in the similar area, but back then the 32 was the high point. 32 of 120 is 26.6%. And if you go 27 would have been, a little bit less. 26 goes down to 21%. That was the lowest number. So 21% was the lowest number of Canadians back then. But now if you go to it, 31 out of 180 is 17%. So from your high of 32 in 2015 and 16 in the recent memory, right? Like I didn't do 19. Yeah. There was no 20. Forget 21 would have been a high number of Canadians, a higher than usual. So, and I appreciated the Canadian content being from here. But just first off, we're looking at about a 4 to 10% decrease, decline in the percentage of Canadian content this year with 3 pools compared to the 2 pool system. So that's not all though. If you look at what 26% of 180 is, it's actually 47.88 Canadians. What could be if we use 26.6%, we get 47.88. So we're essentially 16 short, and 16 divided by 32 is 50. So we could argue that we're 50%. We have a 50% decline in potential Canadian contestants, which to me,
and I think off. They had an opportunity there.
Well, but on the other hand, if you're we're not just trying to fill the shoots with the Canadians. That's not my point. We want to have the best Canadians there, but I think it was a little bit easier to take the best Canadians and have them compete against the best in the world when it was a fewer amount of people, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So you got a better chance to win. You're a 1 in 20 chance. Now you're down to a 1 in 30 chance. So I'm not knocking anybody from up here, but like, I don't know. I think they might have thought that maybe somebody thought that they're going to get more Canadians in the Calgary based on the PRCA standings. But even so, how does Nick Tetz make the CFR in the bull riding and win the PBR Canada title? And he lives in Calgary. Would probably be a good little marketing play for the Calgary Stampede to have somebody from Calgary who is a pretty high level contestant, and he doesn't even get the invite.
Yeah, which is a shame, right? You got probably one of the best Canadian bull riders going in your hometown.
Hometown guy.
Yeah, it's little things like that, right? And I mean, you look back over the last couple of years, the Canadians that have won, right? Like Jordan Hansen won, and I guess Dakota would have split it. Like you say, like these guys can come here and hang and compete with the best in the world. So, yeah, it was definitely a little disappointing. And can you imagine what those numbers would look like if we didn't have the contingent of saddle bronc riders we've got going right now? Like,
oh man, yeah, it'd be a little bit lighter.
That's where we're really dominating those numbers. It's that group of bronc riders who are.
And there's only 3 bareback riders, I think, in the whole thing. I haven't looked at the list lately, but I think when I first counted, there's 3 Canadian bareback riders out of 30.
Yeah,
10%.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the last couple of years. Look how when you see the Canadians win, Bertine Olofsson won the barrel racing, and Jordan wins bull riding there a couple of years ago, and Dakota last year, and it gives the rodeo so much energy and so much hype, and
and Chad Bestplug wins in 2012, and you got Dustin Flundra, Zeke Thurston wins it 2 or 3 times, recently. Oren, who else? Clint Lay, I remember he won Calgary. Like, it's just such a boost for Canadian contestants. And now that it counts.
When Strauss Mylan won it back a few years ago, 100,000, right? Like, it's
a career changer.
Totally. And it gives such cool storylines, right? And and again, it's not that there's not the talent here to compete. It's just too bad that they're not going to have a chance to get showcased, I guess. So
yeah, and I think it's a big step back for Canadian rodeo, honestly. And like, I get that maybe the plan was, and I actually sent an email to the Calgary Stampede. I probably sent it to the wrong person. I never got a reply back, but I wanted to ask like what their thoughts were on, what the reasoning was, what the plan was, what the thoughts were. But like, I kind of gave an official chance and maybe didn't get directed to the right places. I don't want to assume anything, but like, never heard back on what the reasoning was behind the changes. But maybe it's for, like, I'm speculating now, but maybe it's for PRCA reasons. So the PRCA is pushing it on them since it's sanctioned now, and they can't let that few people compete. But if we're comparing this to Houston, Rodeo Houston is 30 days long. Calgary's 10 days. Like, you can't fit 100 contestants into 10 days unless you want to not have any pools at all. And then, I mean, what are you trying to do? Like, you can say the best in the world if you have the top 5 in the world, or if you have the top 100. So where do you draw the line? And
there's names on that list, Ted, that I didn't even know who some of these people are.
Me either.
Like, I'm just like, okay. And I get it. Like, we probably get a little more excited about it being connected to Canadian rodeo. And I'm sure to the average fan that's walking into the Calgary Stampede with a ticket to the rodeo, they don't have a clue. And
maybe, but they know if it's an Alberta person, they're probably going to cheer louder.
Well, yeah.
Or if it's a kid from Calgary, like, there is a lot of people from Calgary that go to the Calgary Stampede.
I remember when was it Connor Hamilton won the novice bareback, and he was a Calgary kid and played hockey. Like, the place went nuts, right? Like,
so funny story. His brother is one of the golf pros at the golf course at Valley Ridge.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, his brother. It was awesome. We had a good chat the other day.
I think we used to play against another brother. I think played for Canmore in the AGHL too. So
I think he plays good hockey still too.
Yeah.
I forgot what his name is now, but yeah.
So those are the kind of things that, like, even when Jordan won, I know that was the year they came back after COVID. But like, man, when you have local people standing out there putting a $50,000 check over their head,
or 100 like it used to be. Another knock. How do you give away millions of dollars to whatever you're doing and still not pay the rodeo full on?
Yeah, and that's. And last year they're hitting record attendance again, right? In 2022, and it's a shame to see it not go back into the contestants' pockets. Even though I don't know how much of it will stay in Canada. I hope the few that are there go there and kick some butt and keep that money in Canada. But
Yeah, we'll see.
I guess in the same respect, we went down there and brought home a lot of money the last couple of years. But
True.
still, it's a showcase rodeo. It's 10 days, and you know, when they increase more contestants, you just really wish that percentage was higher. And I think it's a total fail in that respect.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I said it earlier, but I think it's a huge step back for rodeo in Canada, for our premier event in the country next to the Canadian finals to be less Canadian now. I think less Canadian with more people. Like I saw bigger and better, and I saw the numbers, and I was like, I don't know about this. This might be quite the spin, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the decrease in Canadian contestants. And I think it's cool that it counts, but I think it's cooler that it counts for our Canadian folks that get to go make a run at the finals at the NFR because they won a bunch of money at Calgary. Like, I would think we want to, as Canadians and as people putting on a rodeo in Canada, it's a home game. Every other sport with a home game, it's an advantage. And I'm not so sure if this is an advantage at this point.
You know, you get the Zekes of the world who can go out there and you know, excel to the highest level on those stages, but it's not going to be easy for our Canadians on home field to
come out victorious.
Yeah, and it's not a knock against the talent, because I looked at the list. I mean, every one of our guys on there and girls can win. There's no question, but
100%.
Yeah, and you know, like only three go out of your pool, and you've got 3 days, 3 rounds to make it work, right? And
instead of the top 4, yeah. So there's less per pool, so you're competing against more people for less spots. And
you had 4 rounds before.
Yeah, exactly, in 4 rounds, yeah. And I don't know what the payout is per day either. Like, I hope that the round money's still the same, but they're gonna have to pay $8,000 a day for it to pay the same, because you pay $5,500 a day, so $22,000 over 4 days, and now you're gonna have to pay $7,400 a day to make that the same.
Yeah, so if they don't, you're actually going to win
less money.
Less money during the week, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then the wild card round paid money. So, you know, you essentially could compete in 5 perfs before you got to the championships.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So I don't know, Dustin. I'm waiting to hear back. I guess I should send another note, and maybe we'll talk about it after Calgary. But like, I never heard back. Kind of like
squeaky wheel gets the grease. So
yeah,
keep it send.
I'll bug folks again at Calgary to kind of get an explanation maybe on what it is. But anyways, that's kind of where my head was at. But yeah, we're in Calgary this week. Dustin, you were in Bassano last week. How was the first pro rodeo in Bassano?
Yeah, it was really cool. You know, that was a little community that decided they wanted to go pro, and I heard that they had a pro rodeo back in like the 70s. But they've been like border country FCA kind of since like 82, 81, and their first pro rodeo, and it was really cool. The Saturday night, they had really good crowds, and yeah, credit to them. They knocked it out of the park, and we had a couple of fun little perfs there, and yeah, it was dry, it was dusty, but they got some really good talent there. And you know, we've seen some really good rides. Saw some rookies win some rodeos. We saw, you know, like
Dixon Tatry, good for that guy.
Tatry wins a bronc ride, and then you had Griffin Smeltzer won the bull riding, and you had some, you know, some world class cowboys in the timed events coming up. A lot of the big Americans, and yeah, it was just a really good couple little perfs. Hey, tip of the hat to the committee.
Right on. Well, I'm glad to hear it. We like I said, I'm Pinoca, then we go to Bull Buston. So by the time we do the next show, it'll be probably be the middle of the Calgary this year. I kind of forgot about that, but probably be the middle of Stampede. We'll be heading to TP Creek by then. Looking forward to that one. But yeah, we better get to the interview, man, because I totally forgot until this point of the show that our interview this week is all because of our new Cowboy Shit beer, courtesy of our friends at Cold Garden. And we talked to the co-founder of Cold Garden on the show this week, Dan Allard. So thanks for joining me today here, Dustin. Thanks for making this work late at night. I'm getting kind of tired. I got to go to bed soon. But thanks for staying up late and listening. And folks, thanks for listening to Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin. He is Dustin Edwards. This is episode 146. We've got a special message from Kyle Wilson and Rocky Mountain Days. It's going to be July 6th in DeWinton, Alberta. He'll tell you all about it coming up right after this. Well, we've got another piece of the show here this week. I'm talking with Kyle Wilson. He's one of the organizers of Rocky Mountain Days coming up here in DeWinton, Alberta on Thursday, July 6th. Kyle, we got this put together here a little bit last minute, but thanks for making it work. But tell me more about Rocky Mountain Days. You guys have got a pasture open and bronc riding coming up on the 6th of July, and you got a couple of good concerts matched up in here as well, and it all happens right before the Calgary Stampede. Just talk about the event and kind of how it came to be, and just tell us about it a bit.
Yeah, Jackson and me just
Jackson Laurie, right?
That's right. We just brainstormed this idea. Jackson's got a background with the bronc riding, and I got one with the roping. So we're gonna have basically a team roping on a turf field at Rocky Mountain show jumping. There'd be a real neat little venue for this deal. The day before Calgary starts, the top 12 guys from the roping are going to come back to the short round run in conjunction with the bronc riding. We got 10,000 added for both events, the roping and the bronc riding, and they're going to be followed by a Buck and Horse Moon and a Kenny Fielder concert.
Is this the first time Kenny Fielder's probably been up this way? I've never heard of him having a show up here before.
From what I've seen from his social media stuff, yeah, that's what he's saying. So,
and it's kind of fitting. He's got a song called Cowboy Sh too.
You bet. Yeah, it'll be good.
How'd you guys pick them and Buck and Horse Moon? Buck and Horse Moon fits. They've been into a lot of these shows in the area, but Kenny Fielder is totally off the map, kind of for what we've been used to around here, honestly.
Yeah, and that was more Jackson's deal, just getting the bands and all that stuff lined up. I didn't have much to do with that side of things, but Jackson there went and got them guys.
So 10,000 added. It's capped at 150 teams. So entries are still open. Again, the event's on July 6th in DeWinton, Alberta. It's capped at 150 teams. So 10,000 added. Fees are $200 a man. The first ones paid up or entered first. They can call their entries to where? Tell us where they work. First, there'll be a week left.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
The phone number is, I can put the phone number here, 403-336-4049.
That's right. Yeah, and you just call, and she'd like you to be texting them in.
Okay.
But
yeah, no worries. Okay, so the format's 2-head progressive after 1, average paid on 2, top 12 back to short round so all the money's in the short round, eh? Winner take all. How's it going?
So this is how this is going to work. It's progressive after 1, so it's a 2-header. If you miss your first one, you're out. But if you carry on, we're going to pay a 2-head average. So the average is going to be paid on the 2 steers before the short round. All that money, 80% payback of that, is all in the pot with the entry fees. The short round, the top 12 come back to the short round. And for the short round, it's going to be all the added money, $10,000 right there, $5,000 a man paid for first. So it's a 1-header, winner take all in the short round.
Oh, that's cool. Cool idea. Yeah.
You bet.
And then on the bronc riding side, you said you got 12 bronc riders. Who are some of the guys you got coming to the event?
I know Leighton Green's coming. Just a second here. I'm going to pick this list up and so what we got Leighton Green, Sam Keltz, Cal Marr, Dawson Dom, Mick Knight, Sam Weston, Lachlan Miller, Chance Barris, Hunter Solly, Chase Zweifel, Lane Watt, and Lucas Moxa.
It's a heck of a lineup.
You bet.
Hell of a lineup. What about Buck and Horses? Who you got coming that way?
Richards is bringing them.
So Billy and
yep,
and the crew.
Yep.
Right on. They used to have a bronc riding kind of maturity thing during the Stampede in Cochrane back in the day. Jimmy and Billy and the crew did that, I think. But anyways, tickets include the entrance into the event. You got local vendors as well. What's the story with the local vendors?
Yeah, that's Jackson's deal, but there's going to be set up there of just different folks, sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
going to have little vendor booths there, and it'll be a neat deal for sure.
And it's not just one concert, but two. Tickets are $50 a person. Kids 10 and under are free. You can buy tickets on the website, rockymountaindays.ca. I'm thinking you've got a couple great sponsors here. Anybody you want to thank in particular?
Just
on that
Bronc
side of
beer,
things?
Bronc beer, a real good one there for us. And they've kind of been one of the bigger ones for sure.
Well, awesome. Well, we'll make sure we I'll get your address after this. Make sure we send you some of our stuff. Sounds pretty fitting for an event like this. So once again, Rocky Mountain Days is Thursday, July 6th in DeWinton, Alberta. Check it out, rockymountaindays.ca. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure you can get a hold of Jackson and or Kyle here, and they'll get you what you need. So hope you have a great event. Hope you can hope it goes awesome. Kyle, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, appreciate you, Ted. Thanks for having me on.
When his lights go down and I'm a rolling stone, when the show leaves town and we put it on the road, I got a wandering mind and a hand on the wheel. If people listen to these songs, do you know how I feel? This ain't some rhinestone bit, and this ain't some circus show. Yeah, son, this is pure cowboy shit. Ain't your daddy's rodeo. No, it ain't his rodeo.
All right, well, this week we are inside the Cold Garden Tap Room in Inglewood, just on the edge of Ramsey in Calgary, Alberta, and I'm here with the man who was, he's a co-founder here of Cold Garden. He was also inside Avenue Magazine's Top 40 Under 40 for 2021, Mr. Dan Allard. Dan, thanks for joining us.
You did a deep dive.
I did a bit of research, a moderate amount. But Dan, thanks for having us. We're about to crack into our first Cowboy Shit beer, but courtesy of Cold Garden. Man, thanks for making this.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
It's always fun to have a good partner. Let's do the sound of summer here together.
Yeah. All right. Look at that.
Buddy.
Hey, cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Here we go. We're going to do a quick little taste test.
Nice. 0 sugar, 2 carbs, 5%,
carbs?
Folks.
2 carbs is all, really? Dang.
If anyone cared about that. Also,
2
highly
carbs,
shotgunnable
actually?
Beer.
Is that legit?
Yeah, legit. 2 carbs.
2 carbs? How do you manage
0
that?
sugar. That's the magic trick in it. I mean, the magic trick is keeping it at 5% and having
Really? How do you do that?
110 calories,
110.
0 sugar, 2 carbs.
2 carbs. No way. Because what's in the average beer for carbs?
Lots.
Like how many? How many are we talking? I have no idea.
I mean, if you... average is tough. If you took something like our vanilla cappuccino porter, you're way up there.
Yeah, come on.
If you took our blonde ale, you'd probably be around like 50 carbs.
Really?
But the magic trick with this has to do with using rice hulls, not
really?
just all barley.
Really?
So that's a hot tip that the bigs aren't all bad. We stole that one from Budweiser.
Really? Because they do, there's a lot of rice in what they do.
There is, rice hulls.
In Budweiser.
Yeah.
Really?
That's right.
Okay, so...
That's why some folks who are of gluten intolerances can drink Buds.
Really? Huh. No way, because
Not
that's...
gluten-free, but intolerances.
It's gluten. It's a little less gluten-y. Huh. So, okay, so we got a few things we can talk about today, obviously. But I guess we gotta start about, well... I gotta ask about the beer, like how you make beer, because I have no idea, and I don't think many people that drink beer probably actually have any idea how it's made.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. So 3 major components, 4 if you include water, but that one's usually a given.
Yeah.
But grain, which we're super proud of in Alberta, of course, because we make the best grain in the world here.
Yeah.
Hops, which are typically grown in the Pacific Northwest, Washington and the Yakima Valley. Northwest, really? South in the interior BC, like Chilliwack area.
Really?
Amazing long summers that are really great for growing hops. you'll see hop vines growing all over Alberta too. You just don't see a ton of farmers getting into the game because there was never really enough of a value proposition. Not enough breweries were here. So now we're starting to see some more hop farms pop up in Alberta, but it's harder for them than over in BC and Northwest US because our summers are a little shorter. Anyway, that's the second main ingredient. And then you've got the secret sauce, which is the yeast. And that's made in proprietary labs all over the world.
Really?
And, brewers make sugar water. They make a beer with the grain and the hops in what's called the brew house. And then that's about a 5-hour process for one batch. And we double batch so that we do that back to back and fill up a tank, a fermenter. Now that takes one brew day to brew the sugar water. And then when it's in the fermenter, that's when we throw the yeast. Now the yeast eats the sugars, and that's what creates the alcohol. So that's the chemical reaction that we're looking for is that proprietary lab, they gave us a brick of yeast, and we throw that into the fermenter, and it starts going to work, chewing up all the sugars that are left, and that creates the alcohol. So that's why generally the drier a beverage, the more alcohol content it's going to have.
Really?
So our cider,
Which
we
Storm
try
is
to
having
make it
one of right now.
Yeah, the cider that Storm loves so much. That thing is called Scrapple because we get our juices from a family orchard in Creston, and the sugar content on every batch of juice we get differs.
Oh,
it's
really?
different. And so our main priority is making it as dry as possible, which means we're trying to eat all the sugars out of that we can. And as I just mentioned, the more sugars we eat out of that, the more alcohol there's going to be.
Huh.
Speaking of grain, that sound we're hearing right now they're putting all of our barley casings into a barley crusher, and it's splitting open the shells to expose the sugars that I was just talking about.
Really?
So hopefully that's an audible instruction. But if not, that's what you're hearing, folks.
Dang. And previously you just heard us crack one of our Cowboy Sh beers. But, man, so they're like, okay, but where does the flavor in the beer come in? Like, how, like the different flavors and the different pieces. You mentioned the sugar water kind of step one, and then the yeast against that. But then when do you get the different flavors in things?
Yeah, and it's a good question. And for somebody who doesn't know about beer making, that answer can be true every step along the way. You can derive some flavor from the grain. You can also derive from flavor from the hops and also from the yeast. The grain, as an example, you can get a roasted grain. So in our vanilla cappuccino porter, you're going to see that beer is really dark. The reason it's really dark is because we actually use roasted grain in that. And and then, of course, with that, you get like a toasty
Kind of the caramel flavors.
caramelly appeal to it on the palate. The hops is where you're going to get your bitterness. Now, generally, bitterness is kind of your like IBUs, your international bitterness unit. Generally, the more hops you add, the more bitter your beer is going to be. So your IPAs, your pale ales.
But this one would be really low on the IBU scale.
Exactly, yeah. Cowboy Sh beer is going to be super low on the hops, but there are still hops in there. Now, you can dive deeper into the hops, and you get ones that have more citrusy flavor to it.
Oh, it's variation of hops.
Yeah, lots of variations of hops. And same thing like with the grain. The grain you're going to impart a lot of color on your beer is going to be derived from the grain that you use, unless you're using fruit adjuncts and stuff like that. But with the classic beer with those 4 ingredients, we're talking about color coming from the grain and the sugars, of course. We're talking about bitterness coming from the hops. And then we're talking about yeast. That's going to be that's the driving force that's going to eat those sugars and create the alcohol. Huh. So that's where you can get something, again, you can dive deeper into all those things without getting too sciencey here, but a Belle Saison yeast is going to have like a tangy appeal to it and have some cloves, like a banana clove flavor to it. So among all those things, grain, hops, and yeast, you can have flavor imparted from all those different strains.
Huh. Dang.
But that's why the brewers are so good at what they do. They're literal chefs back there and scientists, and it can get very granular.
Chemists.
Yeah.
Dang. So what all goes into this beer?
So Cowboy Sh beer is, I don't have the brew sheet in front of me. It's a bit of a secret sauce there, but this doesn't have any adjuncts like fruit or anything like that.
Yeah.
Water, grain, hops, and yeast.
Huh.
Very small amount of hops, and then rice hulls as well. So that's
what is a rice hull exactly? I don't know that term.
It's like we got 25 kilogram bags of grain over there. You can get 25 kilogram bags of rice hulls, and part of the reason Budweiser's figured out a plan to use rice hulls is because it's a cheaper grain. I don't think they were thinking about calories when they originally created the Budweiser recipe, but it's a more readily available grain for a global production scale like Budweiser. But also it just so happens that for those that are interested in a keto type of diet, it also hits that. It also hits that target.
Dang. Okay, so we were talking about the Cowboy Sh beer, the collaboration we're working on this month, and we did 2,500 cans. Is that right? Is that what our initial kind of canning was?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was either 2,500 or 3,000, something like that.
Okay. So there's a very limited quantity.
Yeah, limited quantity. Yeah, we're hoping they last us till Stampede, but
that's about it. Yeah,
we're gonna hang on to them for sure. We'll hang on to them, just to make sure we've got some during the big show.
Well, and I know I've already been through at least 42 at my house, maybe more. Storm brought more for this, but I haven't drank all those myself. But we had them. Storm picked them up before I went to Rocky Mountain House last week, so I took them to the rodeo and we were doing a bunch of testing there, and I showed them to everybody. I was like, "Hey, check this out!" And then people were all driving home; they were all leaving. And everybody was on their way back, and they all drove right by where we were hanging out because we had to wait for the wagons.
Okay.
So a bunch of the rodeo guys, I was like, "Oh, here, try this out," and I gave them 2 cans of beer, 2 cans. I was like, "Here, take these home and try them when you get back. Let me know what you think." So I gave a couple away to different people that I know in the rodeo world. So I was like, "Hey, try them out. We got our beer. Check it out." So everybody thought that was pretty cool. It was a little bit of a parting gift before they took off. So
some guerrilla marketing too. A little sneak peek.
Yeah, try this out. Yeah. It's not even public in the public domain yet.
Not yet.
But I was talking to, we just did a show with Will Osler on Monday. And so Will's the president, chairman of the board of the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah.
And Will, we were talking about the beer. He's like, "Oh, you got the beer?" Because I made sure to give Will some too, right? And then he got some to Hugh, his son, as well.
Yeah,
nice. And then Hugh got home that night. He's like, "Oh, these beers are going to make it one day. I'm going to drink them all tonight." Not sharing it all. So he liked them. And then I took him to the golf course today. We had one this morning at the golf course at 10 a.m.
Nice.
With my buddies Trevor and Jay. So showed those guys the beer too. But how did we get this deal done to make the beer? I don't really remember how it all happened, but I've known you since when I worked at Smith Built just across the parking lot. And Smith Built used to be in the old building next to us where Old Beautiful is now too. But I knew you from them, but I think we just got talking to the tarp auction, did we not? And we just hey, let's try this out. Or when did we start this? I don't remember. I don't know how it happened.
I don't honestly know, but it might have been at. It also could have been. No, that was when we revisited it. Maybe it was the tarp auctions. I thought it was before that because we also chatted about it at Brian Hansen's
party
there at his place.
And that was Christmas or wintertime, wasn't it?
That was before the tarp auction.
And that was before Christmas.
So
wasn't it?
I don't know. We were brainstorming.
We've talked about it a few times.
We were brainstorming it, but it came about because we do private labels for big companies like Canadian Tire. We did a Sherwood hockey label beer for them. There's a pretty specific business model that we do for private labels, but there's also one that we like to do for companies that are aligned with us, that we know it's going to be a fun project. We don't break the bank on volume, which is why this is a lower volume thing. But it honestly came about because we were probably a couple of whiskeys deep at Brian's party.
Very well.
And then it was well, let's make a beer together. You're going on the circuit. We love doing this stuff, and let's launch it right before Stampede because we can.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me more about this beer. So it's a blonde ale.
Yeah. Technically speaking, it's a blonde ale. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
based on the
mistook,
ingredients.
it's mistook a lot for a lager, but it's actually not a lager. It's a blonde
Really?
ale, but it's a clean, crisp boy.
What makes the difference between a blonde ale and a lager?
About, to put it simply, about 10 to 15 days longer in a conditioning tank.
Really?
Just sitting and conditioning. Yeah,
The
lager is.
The lager is.
Yeah.
So this one's a shorter brew time. The blonde ale.
The brew time's the same, but the time that it sits in the big silver vessels, that's
Really?
that's a lot longer for a lager, which is why
really?
you don't see many microbreweries doing lagers.
Really?
Takes twice the amount of time to kick one out.
Yeah.
So
How much finished product do you guys have here? Like, and how much are you spitting out, like, every couple days, or like what's
I feel
the
like
story?
you're casing the place now.
I'm just
You're like,
curious.
We're
You don't-
gonna
you don't have to-
semi truck back.
I don't know.
up at
I don't know
5
if it's.
a.m..
I don't know if it's your. If it's proprietary info too. Like,
No, it's
I
not.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's an open book. We actually report them, and the whole industry shares that information because we're all trying to grow together. You know, it's the most
Yeah.
collaborative industry I've ever even heard of, and so. So anyway, to answer your question, we go through our facility here about 125 kegs a week, and that varies greatly between winter and summer. You know, right now we're in our peak season, and the tap room will crank about 125 kegs a week on average.
Wow.
Sometimes more, sometimes less.
That's how many cans of beer you're brewing every week. 125.
That's how much we sell through the doors here.
Oh shoot! Okay, yeah.
Our production, our annual production, is about 3,500 hectoliters a year. So that's I'd have to whip out my calculator, but those at home, if they really give a shit, they can do it.
Yeah, fair. I don't even know what a hectoliter technically might be.
1 hectoliter is 100 liters.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So
okay.
3,500
Hectoliters.
liters.
Yeah. So 350,000 liters.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You know, we might have a zero
Maybe.
off there, but
We're close. It's either 350 or 3.5 million.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a million because, anyways.
So yeah, lots of volume coming through this tiny little facility.
Yeah.
And 90% of it goes through the tap room. The other 10% goes to about 100 accounts outside the door.
Yeah.
Between bars and liquor stores and restaurants. Yeah,
All
we're a very
across.
tap room focused environment, and our next logical step is a production facility that we can brew more beer at and then grow that side of the business, the logistics side.
The wholesale side essentially, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can have it in more stores, more restaurants on tap, more liquor stores, so people can access more readily rather than 90% going through the doors right here right now.
Totally. It's the only scalable side of the business that you can do with it's not the only scalable side. We could definitely open up a bunch of cold gardens across the country, but in terms of distribution, it's the only scalable side of the business is getting a production facility and getting it on the shelves at the liquor stores and the restaurants and bars, and that's a tough market, a lot harder than doing the tap room. Obviously, a much higher margin here in the tap room than having the sales, going through sales team.
You're D2C here.
You got it.
That
Yeah,
makes
we're straight
sense,
from
yeah.
factory to mouth here. You know what I mean?
No transport. Only walking it across the floor to the.
We don't even need to. The cold room is back there, and we have a 90-foot flooded trunk line that keeps the beer at 2 degrees Celsius from the time it's in the tank, kegged into a keg, put into the cold room, and into your mouth, into your glass over here. So
no way.
It's as direct as it can get.
Wow. And so, with this beer, it'll be all gone by July, and it was canned like last week, so it's extremely fresh. Like you're getting about as fresh a beer as you can drink.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's no preservatives or nothing. It's just straight up.
Preservatives. That's in fact, we need a tight timeline on our stuff because we don't have preservatives in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get spoiled beer, which you don't want. But yeah, we don't.
So once you get your Cowboy Sh beer, you got to drink it immediately.
That's right. Yeah, it's a very, as I mentioned, very shotgunnable beer. So get your keys out.
Man, have you heard about shotgun mulligans on the golf course yet?
Oh, I do
Did you
need
see
to
the
hear more
videos?
about this. No.
Okay, so I saw this video the other day, and it's one of the fun golf guys on Twitter or on Instagram, like the Country Club Adjacent or something like that, and they got these things called shotgun mulligans.
Okay.
And I think I told Dustin about it already too, but like you can have a set amount of shotgun mulligans, but you have to shotgun a beer for your before you take the next swing at the golf course.
Okay.
And you can have 3 or 4. Or like maybe it's half a dozen for the game or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you got to shotgun the beer there, but you might give up more strokes later on because you might be effed up.
Of course,
right?
I love that.
You get banged up having all these shotgun mulligans, and you might have a better shot.
Yeah,
But
I was
then-
going to say, if you're like me, the more lit you get, the better your shot.
You might play good, right? But yeah, they were saying that they had this, like, they were on like 17, and the guy had like 3 shotgun mulligans left. So he screwed up a shot, shotgun a beer, screwed up a shot, shotgun a beer, and like did like 3 at once.
Oh.
And your belly's all full of beer, and it's like, whew. So
I like that. I'm 100% going to implement that into
yeah,
my games.
thought it was a fun one.
Every game.
So we'll probably do one of those with these at some point. I got another golf game tomorrow I got to get to, so
Yeah, there's a perfect spot here, right on the horse's butt. That's where we can put our keyhole.
Yeah, that's the spot.
That it's almost by design, I think. I'm not sure if Storm thought about that, but
She must have. It's probably in the designs. Okay, so let's go back. We talked about the beer, talked about the brewing process. Let's talk about here and how this came to be. I don't know that whole story. You've told
Cold
it probably
Garden.
1,000 times, but
yeah,
tell me the story of Blake being and you guys building this place. Like, tell that story for us.
Sure, yeah. The Coles notes are that him and I went to college together here at the University of Calgary, and I was the guy holding 200-300 person house parties, and he started brewing beer in his garage. We went to music festivals together, late night parties, and always had like a fondness for his product. It was at times absolutely brutal, but it was really awesome to just see somebody like take a craft on, and this was well before the rules changed in Alberta. So we really got along, and then the rules changed about 4 years after we had both graduated from college. And we were again at like
when you say the rules changed, they opened up the craft beer market for Alberta.
Yeah,
'Cause
totally.
It was totally locked down before.
Yeah,
for those
they
that
were
might not know.
right across the country. When there was 3 families that owned all the breweries across Canada, there was all of these ridiculous rules that were implemented so that there was barriers to entry into the market. Right. So in Alberta, we had this rule where you had to prove you could do a factory that could produce 20,000 hectoliters a year to get a license to brew. So very cost prohibitive, obviously, and as I mentioned earlier, like we're cranking beer out of here. Anybody with a brand that's of our size and scale is still a microbrewery, but we're putting volume out there, and it's only 3,500. You know what I mean? So very cost prohibitive and a barrier for a lot of entrepreneurs. So they changed that rule. I think officially it was 2013, but it took a while for all the business plans to get together, people to get the balls to get a partnership going, and then you saw this Herculean rise in craft breweries in 2015, and we were a part of that wave. So, yeah, it was around 2014 that Blake tapped me on the shoulder, probably at 4 a.m. at a weird party, and was like, "Yo, you want to do this next?" That was coming off of a commercial real estate project, and immediately jumped at it. Probably a little bit too blindly, but I've had hosting in my DNA since I was a kid, and Blake had it's been in his DNA to make this craft better and better. So to me, it was a no-brainer. So yeah, 2015 we started working on it. Business plan, located this building. We wanted to be in this derelict neighborhood, which was Inglewood, kind of stabby at the time.
Yeah, just a bit.
It was surrounded by tents and needles around our building, and we fell in love with it. And we moved in officially and opened our doors in the January of 2017. But it took us a year to just tear out all the old This was an old welding shop. Tear out all the old welding stuff, and We had to change bylaws in Calgary to make it possible for us to have no separation between the tanks and the public area. So all those things were really important to us because we built this model on seeing stuff all around the world that was chill. It was like dogs are allowed inside these places in Europe, no separation in places in Latin America. And we wanted to combine all those things into something in Calgary. And with our love of DIY stuff, I love building things, and it just made sense. The timing was right. If anybody remembers 2015, there was a big oil crash at that time. So the government had the fire lit under their ass for job creation. And here comes this like breweries, and so they really let us do whatever we wanted. We pressured them under the guise of job creation, and it actually worked. We created a lot of industrial jobs, and yeah, we got away with changing some bylaws because of that timing with the oil crash and that recession.
And some of those bylaws being the park kind of across the street, that was one of them. But then having the dogs allowed with and you're dealing with AHS, where you can't part of it's the food service industry, right? Talk about that a little bit on what the rules were, and you're fighting bureaucrats too. It's it's not a battle you win very often, likely.
Yeah, and what I've found is that, and maybe this wasn't true before our generation, but definitely our generation, they're still dealing with the old bureaucratic red tape rules of acts that were in legislation that was made decades ago. But the individual people that are executing and enabling these things, they would love to see change. They just need somebody to take action and want to push the envelope. So what we found was actually the AGLC and the province of Alberta were super open to us changing the rules. The city of Calgary and the code compliance folks coming through the brewery facilities and being like, actually, these aren't pressure vessels. There aren't flammable liquids here. They thought there were before, which was the reason for the fire separation.
Oh, really?
And it was really just about educating them. And, no, I mean, they're the most educated folks here, but helping them understand what our brewing process is like.
Yeah.
And same thing was true with the dogs. You know, that one was a little bit more of a, because of the new bylaw, Alberta Health Services actually didn't do their inspection when we opened because they just thought we were a factory. So they waived their inspection, not knowing we had this big occupant load tap room. And I didn't know what to do with that, but I had my dogs coming in with me when I was swinging a hammer building this stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, lo and behold, I just let my dogs keep coming in. And so after about 3 months of that, we got really popular, and we didn't really expect it to be that popular at that time. And a competitor had complained about our dog policy, which ended up working against them because we got to the front page of every newspaper. It even got national attention, you know, with the worst headlines like a dog day at Cold Garden and no more hair of the dog at Cold Garden. And so same thing applied, though. In the media, they portrayed it like this big David and Goliath perspective of small business versus big AHS, Alberta Health Services.
Yeah.
But in reality, some amazing people behind the scenes there. They're all dog owners. They got it. They're like, yeah, why is this rule exist?
Yeah.
And we got to examine that, and it was because when you're doing, they were concerned about food preparation being in the same space as dogs and animals.
Yeah.
Well, it's a closed system back there. You know, there's no food preparation back there. So
no. And you guys still don't have. You still don't have food here?
We don't.
You order things in.
We let people bring their own food in. We've had folks bring homemade potlucks on Sundays, like whatever you want, right?
That's fun.
Part of that is because
totally
of the
unique
dogs.
too.
Hey?
Totally unique. Like I don't know anywhere else that does that much.
We know what we do really well, and that's make beer, you know, and now wine. But what we didn't know anything about was, you know, making food and a commercial kitchen and all that.
Yeah.
And from an AGLC's perspective, they just cared about people having access to food. So with the advent of Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats, people can have food here at any time of the day that we're open. And it was honestly just about presenting the information in a way that the people behind the veil could say, oh, yeah, that does make logic sense. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we do it for that, for the dogs, but also because the bars and restaurants around us, you know, Nash, Hosenhound, Dirty Duck, Vegan Street, they all carry our beer.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we don't step on their toes too much.
True. And it's pretty hard to run a successful restaurant. It seems like there's a lot of folks that's a tough one.
I'm amazed.
Not saying that making beer's no easy job either, but like there's a lot of restaurants that come and go over the years.
I'm amazed at it. You know, they're working with a kitchen environment, you know, which is sometimes glorious, sometimes not. The equipment required for that, you know, the front of house staff.
Oh, yeah.
There's a totally different narrative with a restaurant, and it's like got to be one of the most. I've had 3 different businesses, and nothing compares to the complexity of a restaurant.
Wow. What were the first 2 besides this one?
Going back to my landscaping, baby. My first.
Oh, really?
My true passion to this day. I love landscaping, and so during university, that's what put me through school was a landscaping company with a little construction business as a part of it, and then when we graduated, me and my buddy Jesse White ran that together, and we sold that when we graduated, and then got into commercial real estate right after that, right after we graduated college, and jumped on it with a very small business as a partner. Became partnered with Karen Barry. She with Barry Commercial Real Estate, and she focused on mid-market stuff, and I walked in with a lens on marketing and cash flow analysis with my finance degree and that kind of thing, and she had 30 years experience out of Toronto and the client book that you wouldn't believe, and so that was a great partnership there. Had a failed attempt at a transloading company when that was all the rage, putting crude to rail, and all these transloading facilities around southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. And we had a good run at that. And the fall that we were about to launch it, secured all these contracts with small towns that had old grain elevator sites that were decommissioned. So they had the rail siding and enough run for about 4 to 8 rail cars to just post up there. It would normally be for grain loading. We were going to repurpose those sites for loading oil. And
You don't have to truck it as far.
exactly. And we thought that was a brilliant plan, and at the time it was, but then that horrific accident in Quebec happened,
Oh, yeah.
Lac Mégantic, where a crude rail car went back into town, and disaster, fire. And so they changed all the rules, and you needed a lot more siding now. You needed more like 16 rails of cars of siding capacity. So then it eliminated that whole model.
Dang.
So anyway, and then this.
Right on. And then I remember reading up on a couple things, and one of the next things is Cold Garden 2.0. One of the someday, right? So, and you and I talked about this somewhere where you talked about Nosara, Costa Rica.
Oh yeah.
And you want to do another Cold Garden someday. Maybe I wasn't supposed to give away the location, but
Oh yeah. Again, there's no idea that's that special. You can't share it. It
Okay.
all comes down to execution, in my opinion. And everybody can have the same idea, in my opinion. We can share that
That's
with
true.
the world. Nosara is
That's
one of the
true.
most beautiful places in the world. I love that place, and it might not be the smartest business decision to throw a brewery down there. It probably is the worst business decision, but yeah, there's a lifestyle choice there that's somewhere down the line going to happen in a tropical location. So Blake and I right now
for the winters mostly, right?
Yeah, well,
Calgary's pretty tropical in the summer.
yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do here, except we can only get vinyl plants to represent it. But yeah, right now we're at that. Like I mentioned before, our next move is we got to have a production facility, and
then
that's
the
makes-
wholesale side of the business.
Yeah, that's what's needed. So, hey, Fern, chill out, boy. Yeah,
Fern
you
is
can hear-
what kind of is it? An Irish wolfhound? Is that
yeah.
right?
So we've got our dog here at our feet in this interview,
Fern.
and he's an Irish wolfhound.
He is
He's
gigantic.
almost 7 months old, about 120 pounds, and he'll be about 170 pounds when he's done.
Holy smokes!
But yeah, he's doing a good boy. He's staying at our feet. Another dog just came in the brewery, and his ears are perked, but he's lying down like a good boy.
Real good boy.
Still looks a little spooky though. So
He is. I've never seen a dog this tall. I don't think.
I'm sorry, you never seen a dog that big?
this tall.
That tall,
Tall.
yeah.
Like I've seen big dogs like the one that just came in, but like
Yeah.
he is a tall puppy dog.
Yeah. So Fern, you'll catch him on some of the Cold Garden social media and
Yep.
around the brewery. He's a brewery dog. He'll be there. He'll be here all the time.
Awesome.
But yeah, they're tall dogs. They're not thick dogs. They'll be a little bit like your teenager that's having a growth spurt.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah, 2.0, it's all over the place. We went to Winnipeg to have a look. Winnipeg's
really?
such an amazing city, and it's popping off. There's like
Yeah.
so much activity out there.
It's less stabby now too.
It's less stabby, but
Yeah.
man, the places
Still
that
a
we went
bit
to look,
stabby.
it's very stabby.
Well, so Canada West Boots, the boot company I work for, they make Brahma boots, make Canada West. They're on Fife Street, so 1250 Fife Street is
Yeah.
where they're at. So I don't know what your plan is, but if you need any Winnipeg connections, I'll get you hooked up with Graham and the crew. He's our age, and he's running the boot factory.
Nice.
And he plays golf west of town, so
Okay, nice.
he'd be a good guy to, if you're going back, he might know some spots.
We got a
Bunch of
little bit
people.
cold with Winnipeg.
Okay.
And pun intended
Too
there,
stabby.
because it was
Too wintry, too
if
cold.
we were going to put the energy in, there's only two of us here, and if
Yeah.
we were going to put the energy into a new facility, my heart lies somewhere tropical for a taproom focused thing, and our logic lies, in my opinion, somewhere in the foothills would be amazing. Right here in Alberta, the foothills would be fantastic to have a big production facility out there, doubled up with an event space. Not a taproom open all the time, but something
like,
that
you mean
we
like
can
a Canmore
share.
or Banff, or what do you? Or
I'm thinking
further
before the
BC?
Rockies. Yeah, in the foothills as you approach, Cowboy Trail, Highway 22, that kind of thing.
okay.
Somewhere along there. Water rights are tough out there, but if anybody's listening that's got some land out there,
Oh,
we're
really?
looking for something out that neck of the woods.
Because you need the water to brew the beer.
That's,
Is
at the end
beer
of the
is
day.
water one of your most expensive input costs?
Not most expensive, but not yet. But
it probably will be at some point.
at some point it's inevitable, right?
Oh, wow.
Jeez. But it is our biggest component of beer for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And so some businesses have made it make sense by trucking water in, but those are low volume things. Our next step is making sure that we have a production facility that's capable for us to grow So we'll see, though. There's only two of us. We don't have any investors. It's
you guys did it yourself.
And so we don't have any pressure to grow. It's
did you use your money from the last two businesses, or did you have to get a bank loan?
A little bit of both. We bootstrapped this thing. I did
a lot of it yourself.
Yeah, we bootstrapped it, and we also got for our equipment, we got the Canadian Business Financing Program at the time because of the recession. They were giving out $350,000 loans that had to be based on buying equipment.
Really?
So we used that for the equipment, and then the rest of it we bootstrapped and.
No way.
Beg, kick, and steal. I didn't care where Blake got the money, and he didn't care where I got the money.
And rent or lease the building is a lower cost than buying it in the beginning.
Yeah.
You may have bought it recently or over the years, but
yeah, we were renting at first. We own the site now, and
that's awesome.
And it was at the end of the day, it all comes into play. But rent, we couldn't use that loan towards rent. It had to be towards equipment.
No way. So you had to pay the rent with your beer sales.
Yeah, there were some dicey moments, and it was my house on the line. I had I just finished, and I plowed all my savings from commercial real estate into a house in this business.
Wow.
And the bank said, well, you better throw your house on the line for this loan because you got nothing else.
Holy shit.
And it's
survive or die at that point.
Yeah, and there was at no point, though, did we think of it as a risk. It was, come from a family that came from nothing, and it was like, at the end of the day, I know how to live poor.
Yeah, fair. Jeez. Which is honestly a kind of, number one, thrifty. Like but you know how to get by, and you know what hard work is too, right?
Yeah, and I can't say that I know necessarily how to get by because my parents were the ones having to deal with the finances when we grew up.
Yeah, fair.
But I know what it felt like, and to me, I had a great childhood, and I had a really great experience with my pops when I was younger. In his community out in Winnipeg, outside of Winnipeg in the bush there, they hunted for a living. And so I snared my first rabbit when I was a kid. And
no way.
That really set the tone for me. I was like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of fat rabbits in Calgary. I know I could go skin a rabbit and have a meal.
If you really have to.
Yeah.
You got some, there'd be some coyotes around back here too once in a while, wouldn't there?
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, we've had coyotes out here.
Right on the
State
rail
Park
line,
over there.
Yeah.
They'll come right into town. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We saw one was dropping a deuce on the cart path today at the golf course this morning.
Nice.
That was pretty good. Coyote. Oh, man. Okay, so there's another piece here is the community side of things. And we kind of touched on a little bit of the AHS side of things and the allowing the dogs in here and having some of the bylaws changed that way. But talk about the community side of things and shutting down 9th Avenue, it's a pretty major thoroughfare in this part of town, but that part of it, building the park across the street, part of you being on the Inglewood BIA, talk about that a little bit. I want to just kind of talk on the community side of things because it's an important part of what you're doing here. You're brewing beer for the community, in the community, and without the people that come to support the business, you wouldn't have it. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is just in the whole life cycle of a dollar bill, it really is in one pocket, out of one pocket and in the other for a whole community. And what I mean by that is when we opened our doors in 2017, this place, it still looks like a junkyard, but it looked like an absolute junkyard before. I'm amazed looking back at those photos that people were excited about this place and they came in droves to support us. And that was super inspiring. We always knew we wanted to be community-centric and a community hub, but we also know that takes money, to really have an impact. We can have boots on the ground, help with river cleanups and things like that, but we wanted to do as much as we could for the community. And if not for them stepping up to begin with, to start that relationship off on the right foot, we wouldn't have been able to do stuff like that. So, we built a park across the street with some of our profits because it made sense. There was a gopher field before. It was trash. In the same way that this building had tents around it. Brian Hansen, I remember him telling me when Smith Built was across our building neighbor there, there was a lady named Sally across the street that would disappear anytime a truck would show up and come out and brush her teeth behind the tree. That's what that field was. And to be able to put a basketball court there and a mini ramp for skateboarders and a table with chessboards on it and like that means the world to us to be able to give back to the community that literally got us off the ground with this dumbass idea. And then so beyond that, we try to give back wherever we can. At the University of Calgary, we're helping out student projects every single semester, whether it be MBA capstone projects, or right down to undergrad projects. We're trying to help people just network. I'm going to MC the convocation right away, and we do that stuff for free. And it's all about, as I say, like that dollar bill travels back and forth so many times, which is what makes supporting local so important, because when it goes to a big conglomerate, it gets pulled out of the community, that dollar bill. And when it's in here, it's got, I think the stat that I learned was it's got 10x the hands that a dollar bill goes through hands in the community when it's spent locally. And so, it goes right down to, I'm the chair of the Inglewood BIA here in the neighborhood, and that's the community association. Basically, it's the version that represents the businesses. And it's just about driving as many eyes to the community as possible. And 9th Avenue, like you mentioned, we've got no problem locking that up to have a horse-drawn carriage go up and down the street, just for shits and giggles, because we know it's going to get airtime, we know it's going to be fun, and we know it's going to brand Inglewood as like a place that cool stuff happens. It's not always about efficient vehicle use. It's like, what are we doing that's cool, that's going to keep attracting people to our neighborhood? And all of those little community pieces have a big impact with our patrons. And it's not tangible. There's no like, oh, we do X and we get Y. We just know that part of our underlying narrative is making sure that we're doing whatever we can to build this community up to the highest standard it can be, because we live in it and we work in it, and all of our friends are going to be here, and our patrons become our friends. And as I say, your dollar bills go from pocket to pocket.
You mentioned, well, there's a couple things to get to here still, but you mentioned wine. You just started brewing wine. What's the story there? And how do you give up beer capacity to make wine, or are you?
Well, with a business partnership, as I'm sure you can resonate with, everyone holds their own hammer, right? So Blake and I, this partnership works amazingly because he holds a hammer on the production side, and I hold the hammer on the rest. And he knows that what I want to do, if I've got a weird idea that he might not agree with, at the end of the day, he's got faith that I'll execute it properly. And if Blake wants to run with whatever he's passionate about, I'm all for it. The man knows how to research, and he knows how to tap on the right shoulders to learn. And I'm really excited about it. His latest passion is wine. So during the pandemic, we had excess tank space because obviously volume wasn't coming through the way it used to. And we took that time to make a sparkling white wine. We called it the Laughing Loon as an homage to Baby Duck, for those who know it. And it turned out being a pretty good wine because the Dean House was serving it on Oyster Night, and it was one of their best-selling wines on Oyster Night.
No way.
At the Dean House. So that one's gone now. We did not expect that it was going to go over well.
Really?
But people started asking more for it. And so my favorite wine, and I'm proud to say it, is a rosé. And so Blake's now, he's got a rosé in the tank.
Really?
And that was a surprise to me. I didn't know he was
timing's a little bit
gonna do
longer
that.
on wine, is it not?
Wine's got to be a lot longer, yeah, totally. So I don't even know the answer to that because that's how new this project is. But I know the rosé's been sitting in there for months.
Really? How do you sacrifice that space when you're trying to make a bunch of beer?
Yeah, with great difficulty, But again, we never got into this business because of the dollars and cents. We never got into it for money. We got into it to explore things, have fun with it. There's a coincidentally a business proposition in that beer en masse globally is in a decline, and so you got to start exploring other narratives, other things. And so there's our number one selling thing is the Inglewood iced tea. It's a vodka beverage.
It's so good too,
and
it's so good.
High quality tea from the tea trader down the road, literally brewing a massive kettle of tea and then putting neutral grain spirit in it. That's what we do for that. And so different than beer though. And then we're just trying to expand our product line, and I don't really care what direction Blake goes with it. I know at the end of the day it's going to be good, and let him run with it, because at the end of the day you got to be passionate about what you're doing, and that's why I don't put my toes into his business, because I know it'll turn out good if he's interested in it.
Huh. Man,
but next up's a rosé wine, and I cannot wait. And it's going to get weird too. We just got an impulse buy on a 7-Eleven grade slushy machine, and we're gonna make rosé slushies.
Really?
It's gonna be awesome.
What's the expectation? What's the expected release date on that? Do you know?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm hoping in time for Stampede.
Wow.
And I think that we'll be close to that date.
Really?
We do talk about these things, but honestly, that we talk about a lot of things, and that packaging date's just escaped me right now. But I know it's going to be around Stampede time.
Dang, that's fun. Okay, the disco balls. What's the deal with all these?
Oh, yeah.
With all these guys.
Yeah, the hanging ornaments. So
yeah,
one represents every year that we've been around. So the first beer fest we were at is our pineapple, the hanging disco pineapple. And then, so yeah, all around the room.
It's not upside down, though. It's the right side up, so.
Yeah, no, that's right side up. Yeah, that's right side up. Did I say upside down?
No.
Yeah, anyway, that's,
The
yeah, they're all about, describing them out. They're about 5 feet in height or width, sometimes both. And so they're big, and they're all glued with these 1 inch by 1 inch glass colored tiles.
Jeez.
And so we unveil a new one at every year's beer fest.
Wow.
Canada's largest beer fest is here in Calgary every May. The ABF crew puts it on, and we hang one of these babies from the center of the BMO Center ceiling.
No way.
And we have a big drop cloth there, and the crowd gets there, and we drop it at 7 o'clock on the Friday night. And, the confetti cannons go, and the balloon drop, and the whole shebang, And so this year, the new unveiling was this oyster with a pearl in it. And so, yeah, we'll be working on a new one every single year.
So Storm has a suggestion for your next one.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to make any guesses?
Yeah, we're open to suggestions.
So, pardon? She wants to start a petition. So Storm thinks it should be a cowboy boot.
A cowboy boot?
Yeah, boot.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
good.
I think I like that.
We'll put it to the meeting when it comes up.
Or a hat would be cool, too. Or a buckle. Could you imagine a Cold Garden belt buckle, blingy, whatever that thing is, disco ball?
A buffalo?
No, a buckle, like a belt buckle.
A buckle, yeah.
Like a belt buckle.
I mean, anything's a
That'd be
limit.
cool,
We've got
too.
a sun, a pineapple, an oyster right in front of us. Those are not correlated whatsoever.
And is this the moon?
Yeah, there's a moon over there. There's a pink flamingo over
and a
there,
gnome
and there's
over
a
here.
gnome over here. We love the suggestions. Keep them coming, because you never know where it's going to land. And that was a passion project that Blake wanted to start in year 1, and then in year 2 we were like, sorry Blake, but it's a hit. You got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so,
what's the base of them? What are they?
Their core is styrofoam, structural styrofoam from Foamworks in town.
Okay.
And we give them the design. Tess, our graphic designer, does the design based on an idea we give her, and then Foamworks cuts it out of a CNC and hand carves it. And then we painfully tile those 1 inch by 1 inch tiles. There's hundreds of them on each one. Probably thousands is a better number. And and at the end of the day, it's always Blake there lying on his back, gluing these tiles, because everyone gets excited about it to begin with, and the staff want to help.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that novelty wears off real quick, and then it's just Blake in there at the 11th hour trying to glue these tiles on.
Holy.
Yeah. And you get cut up, too. Those things are sharp, man.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, you need to wear some gloves. Jeez. What's your favorite Cold Garden beverage from Cold Garden
Red
Beverage?
Smashed In Buffalo Jump, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the
it's
one.
number 1 on the board when you come in the tap room. Number 1 in my heart. It's something that's been on the board since day 1. I love an Irish red ale, and I love a malty beer. Okay. I grew up. The beer that I was drinking in high school was Rickard's Red, and it was very different than the beer we drink here. Really? That our red is here. But I just loved that style of beer. It was the beer my dad drank, and so it was something that I was just like, I just finished saying I don't dip my toes too much into Blake's world, but this was one beer where I was like, Blake, you gotta put some time into this one. We gotta have a malty one, and we need that color to be red without doing any color agent.
Yeah.
We found out later that everybody that gets that color is using a coloring agent, but
really,
the color that's out of that is imparted by the grain that Blake's using alone. And it's not the one that I drink the most, but it's the one that I like the most.
It's your favorite one. Really?
A very malty red beer. And there's an homage to my heritage there. I'm Métis. I Métis jig. I've jigged across the country.
Yeah.
The climax was probably the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. and yeah, it was
Mom or dad's side? Or both?
Yeah.
Which
Dad
one?
is Cree.
Dad is. Okay.
Yeah, mom's Norwegian. I got her hair and my dad's bone structure. But yeah, so they named me White Buffalo when I was like 4 years old at a powwow in Orillia, Ontario, because of my Norwegian blonde bouncing hair when I was jigging. Now it's actually a little more red and brown, but yeah, White Buffalo was coined as a kid, and so anyway, that the name on that board is an homage to the head smashed and buffalo jump. I still jig to this day for free whenever anybody asks. Sometimes we get an honorarium or a tobacco pouch or something, but it's something I want to give back to that community and share that piece of culture. You know, it's a mixing of the heritage, a very important part of our history and where we land today. And we're literally at the confluence of the river right here, where trading has been happening for centuries, you know, and thousands of years before first contact, you know, quote unquote, before the settlement happened.
Yeah.
So that beer means so much more than the name for me. It's an homage to Head Smashed and Buffalo Jump, of course, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's a nod to my nickname and a nod to my favorite beer.
What? Tell me if I'm way off here, if I'm wrong, or what's going on. But what was the indigenous side of beer and beer making, or is it a European thing, or like is there? Did the indigenous folks of Alberta make beer back in the day? Like, I have no idea about that.
There's no heritage piece there that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
You know, there might have been some entrepreneurial indigenous folks that got involved after
it was introduced?
European settlement came.
Okay.
But, yeah, beer, although arguable in the regions over east, in the eastern parts of the world.
Yeah.
In North America, beer wasn't like...
It's new.
in how it's formed today, it wasn't a brewed thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, that there was no derivative from that. Our first heritage moment, so to speak, for our neck of the woods and beer and the way we know how to brew it today is right down the road. This area used to be known as the Brewery Flats.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, the Calgary Malting and Brewing Company in the 1880s started up here, and that was one of the major industries here. That, rail, and the Northwest Mounted Police were the big industry.
And the whiskey, right? Like Alberta Distillers is close by too?
Alberta Distillers.
Is that later on, though?
Later on,
okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, yeah, so Calgary Malting and Brewing Company, that changed hands a number of times, even through Labatt's hands at some point in Pepsi.
Really?
Because they have water rights right underneath that building. It's crazy.
No way.
Yeah.
And do you guys have any here?
We don't have water rights here. We pull off the city system.
Oh.
But they have their own literal like aquifer they would pull from water right out of from
way.
there. Yeah, totally crazy. So that's why I think perked the years of Pepsi in the 90s. But
I guess.
in any case, now that's owned by Matco, and they're about to develop that into a master plan community. But
really? So
but in any case,
done as a brewery. Like it's no more brewing.
No brewery over there. We looked
now.
at that site, but there was a demolition clause, and the rent was not cheap.
And it's too far out in the industrial side of things. Like Inglewood's got more retail close by, right? Like that's kind of out in the industrial.
A little bit,
areas,
but
right?
that didn't scare us. It's close enough in my mind. I mean, this, to be fair, was like, as I
mentioned,
mentioned, it was a bum encampment before,
yeah.
you know. But yeah, Matco's going to do an amazing job building that site out. It'd be great if there was a brewery there someday, but it might not happen. Who knows?
Huh.
But yeah, to your question, you know, that's something that I would like to research, but I never have. Alcohol has got a dicey relationship with the indigenous folks, and including my family, you know, and it's nothing to shy away from. It's something that I take to heart in what we're doing here. I'm really proud about what we do. You know, we do tastings and stuff like that. It's about caring about, you know, where's your beer coming from? How is it made? It's not about just like buying a 24-pack for as cheap as you can and getting drunk right away. It's really more about the craft and like why am I drinking this thing right now? And it's because it tastes good. You know who makes it. You know what farms these things are coming from, right in our backyard. We're trying to flip the script on that a little bit, but it's a touchy subject.
What what is your relationship like with alcohol, being somebody that owns a place like this and brews it, and like how do you stay away from drinking 15 beers every day and being a wreck? Like how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's like near and dear to my heart. My family has had problems with alcohol for sure, and I don't know exactly why. I know everyone's wired differently, but I've never had the pull that some people have. And for me, I love the community that beers bring, and there's a reason that they say most deals happen during Stampede, and it's a lot of that has to do with having beers, and it's a tool, it's a tool for community, and the moment that it doesn't become a tool for community is the moment that it becomes a problem for yourself. And I've never had that addiction piece. I've never felt that addiction piece, so I can't really comment on why I've escaped it. And I don't want to diminish that. And it's important for me to mention that I don't have that addiction piece, because the way that I understand it is some people do. And their chemical composition in their brain looks at alcohol in a different way, or any drug for that matter. At the end of the day, alcohol is a controlled substance. It's a drug, caffeine, cannabis, anything, right? And everybody's wired differently. So for me, I know that I love having alcohol present when I know it's going to be a tool for having an amazing party.
Yeah.
It's going to take the edge off of people who would normally be kind of boring. And instead you're like, oh, here's this top class lawyer in the city that's normally kind of stuffy. You're like, oh, this person's taking a layer off, and they're actually really sweet. And so yeah, there's an edge there that I've been able to toe the line on, because I don't feel that pull with alcohol.
Going back to the indigenous side of things, what were the spirits in their time, like 150 years ago, or do you know that side of things? I'm really curious about that now. And
I know, yeah, so am I.
So you mentioned
to be
tobacco,
honest,
and I know that's been a piece for a long time.
I don't know that, but I know part of my family's heritage was nomadic Cree.
Yeah.
And so to be able to brew stuff, when you hear about alcohols being brewed down in Latin America, like the Mayans have some stuff that they were doing, and so there's always an agricultural piece to that, because you need to have settled so that you can grow plants and
be in one place. If you're
exactly.
nomadic, you're not don't have time
and
to
I've
do
never
it.
looked into that, but that's such an awesome question, because maybe it wasn't alcohol, but maybe it was something else. There had to have been
maybe
a thing.
It was a kombucha-y kind of something.
Maybe it wasn't a beverage. Maybe there was herbs of some sort. You know what I mean? Like maybe
it was just mushrooms. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been mushrooms. It could have been salvia. It was who knows, right? There's a lot of herbs that grow that have psychedelic properties that might have been made more sense, and it was more about foraging as you were nomadic. But I know that probably had a big part in it, and I would put money on the fact that if you weren't staying in one place, you probably didn't have an alcohol.
Not likely.
Because you got to process it, right? But what do I know? I'm just guessing there. I would love to research it.
Yeah, I wonder. You mentioned, because one of the things that I was reading up on said one thing you'd like to know more about is human history, I think was the quote.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that we are so long ago, and how did they build the pyramids? How did they, there's so many things that we don't know that are lost in history. Yeah,
and I think the fun part about that is that we just love to discredit our historical selves. We're like, there's no way they could have built the pyramids on their own. They had to have had aliens there, but it's actually they're probably pretty smart, they're probably pretty smart, but somehow those tools and methods just got lost along the way. And who knows? I mean, I'm not saying there weren't aliens involved, but
maybe
but
there
I'm
were.
just saying that I think a little bit more credit is due, and I just think we've lost a lot of that knowledge. And what I think the fun part is as you rediscover some of those things, now we're starting to get into a big foraging movement where people are starting to understand the properties of psilocybin and how that might be good for people who are
depressed,
have PTSD and all that.
Depression was one of the studies I read about too.
Sorry?
Psilocybin and depression. There was people that were doing
exactly. Depression and psilocybin and
pretty wild.
All that stuff, right? And so we're just starting to rediscover stuff that they already knew back in the day, and we've just eliminated it because of Nixon's big war on drugs in the 60s. It was actually maybe let's explore those a little bit more again and see how we can help ourselves without having to rely on the pharmaceutical industry so much.
How much? Well, so do you do any of the beer brewing ever, or is your time 100% on this side, like you mentioned? Do you do any of that? Blake's away. Do you got to help, or does he have a kind of a crew that manages it? I wonder what your experience is, because remember we talked before, and there was one time when somebody fucked up some beer and you got to pour it out or something. There's been some wrecks different times.
There's been about 3 times now in our history that we've had to dump beer. And our latest one was funny, and she's learning very quickly, but our latest brewer, Maggie, had one, and I can't blame her entirely.
Is she grinding the barley up right now?
Yeah, she's running around. She's brewing right now, and
yeah.
Amazing. One of our bartending staff before just had a really big passion for brewing, started home brewing to prove it.
Really?
And we had an opening, so we said, come on in, and she's killing it. But yeah, I mean, I've had the boots on for sure, but I can't call myself a brewer. When Blake was in the garage and when we were first learning on the system, I was there. I know how to, turn the valves and put the couplers on and move the hoses around and dump a bag here and there. But can I make a recipe? No. Do I know how to taste something and figure out what's wrong with it to fix it? No. But yeah, can I be told what to do back there? Absolutely. So I would call myself a good cellar hand, and I wouldn't call myself a brewer though. But yeah, you won't find me back there. I make they're very good at what they do, and the awards on the wall say it. We just got back from Halifax.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah, another one. The Canadian Brewing Awards for our blonde ale. And
which is what we're drinking here.
It's close to what we're drinking.
Close
same
to it.
beer style.
Same style. Okay.
Yeah, same beer style. So yeah, I wouldn't dare step back there because I would just screw something up. But in dire straits, I can certainly throw the boots on and help them out. And but that's Blake's department. Yeah.
What's the best party you've ever had here, and why?
Best party
Yeah.
that we've ever had? Oh man.
So far, I wonder.
Yeah.
Did they like tear the place up? Like, was it a wreck or was it okay? Or
I mean, before we were open, we had some house parties.
Oh, really?
I guess warehouse parties. Just to,
on the down
'cause
low.
we had people volunteering for us. That just wanted to see this thing happen, and got to reward them, right? And
Yep.
so, like I said, back in uni, I was the guy throwing big parties, and so
200,
that was
300
the
people.
reward.
Like, where did you have these? 200
Right
people at
here
the
in
house party?
warehouse.
Oh, you had them here.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
yeah.
during
I can
during
say that now
college?
that we've got our license, but
During
but
college,
yeah,
you did?
at the time, no, not during college, no.
Where
Oh,
were
at
your
college?
200-person
At my
college
house.
parties?
Yeah.
At your house?
At my house, yeah.
Holy
The
shit.
classic bungalow. I would put up construction fencing between my neighbors' yards in the front, and because I knew it was like I had to respect my neighbors if I was going to do these things, and we'd have the orange fencing up. We'd have people selling sunglasses out there, and a bungalow had a DJ upstairs, DJ downstairs.
No way.
Yeah, way
That's
too
insane.
many people in the house and spilling out onto the yards. But
Holy.
yeah, literally just packing bungalows.
Holy smokes. on a Saturday during the school year.
Oh yeah, BSD. You'd get started. You'd have people flipping crepes there. Our buddy Kevin Westergaard would come at 7 a.m. and flip crepes, and
Really?
and we'd have kegs getting tapped at 7 a.m. and yeah, crazy parties. But one of my favorite festivals we just finished doing the walk-in for is Beakerhead.
Yeah.
And awesome. That's going to be in September. Really excited about that one. Science and art mashup. And then the Afro-Caribbean Food Festival in East Village. That's another big one that we're a part of. And so now we're trying to bring the party elsewhere and support those communities around the city. Love that stuff. We do a big volleyball one, 6-pack volleyball in August. That's a really fun one, getting involved with the volleyball community. And yeah, there's no shortage of them, and they're all growing every year.
Man, I like it.
But
And
the biggest one's coming up, June 20th. Release
yeah.
of Cowboy Sh.
Yeah, June 22nd.
This is 22nd? It's a Thursday.
22nd, Thursday, yeah.
It
Anyways,
happened.
Anyways.
The party was
It was
awesome.
so good.
It was the biggest one yet.
It was so good, yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask about the Avenue thing, but what it meant to you to be in that top 40 under 40 list. It's something that's been on my list for a long time.
It's
I
nice
want
to be
on there.
acknowledged,
Yeah.
It's nice to be acknowledged. It always feels weird. There's always imposter syndrome no matter what, Like, I feel like whenever you're kind of doing stuff, you're always out of your element, but that's the point, Like, always trying to do things, and you always feel out of your element. And so, yeah, getting that was a little bit weird. But, yeah, it's really nice to...
Do you know who nominated you for it?
Well, Rebecca O'Brien, she's my executive director at the Inglewood BIA.
Oh, okay.
And she has her fingers in a lot of things that I'm never totally aware of. And she is literally the backbone of why Inglewood is as cool as it is. One of those people that you're like, just the little things, like huge vitamin water ad as you enter the neighborhood on the #1 mural. She's like, nah, sorry, Coca-Cola, that's got to come down. And instead, she found $50,000 worth of grants that we're working on now, an indigenous art piece that's an homage to the confluence of the river. It's going to have an AR component to it. Like,
Really?
amazing, the kind of stuff that these people,
Wow.
these community builders behind the scenes, just, they're what drive these communities, and it's people like that really should be on the front page of those top 40 under 40 covers, because there's always people like that behind those folks.
Your philosophy about how everything is possible has kind of been part of making the dogs in here happen, making this happen, having the art on the walls, making beer, selling it. Where does that come from?
I really, in hindsight, look back to that, like, skinning the rabbit moment.
Oh, really?
Truly, yeah. I mean, my family moved out to Alberta chasing jobs when I was a kid, but a lot of my family on my dad's side stayed out in the bush and lived out. And my cousins, they live off the land, some of them still, and some have moved into the city. And I just know that there's like a big bad world out there, and we have it so good in Canada, so good. And nowadays, our version of like having a fail-safe, being able to skin a rabbit, actually means like I can go down the street. I've helped a friend go through our food security system, and I know there's groups that are just giving free baskets of food to those in need. And I just feel like if you have the will and energy, there's literally nothing stopping you, as long as you don't have too much of an ego to know that you might be down the street picking up a food basket if you get hungry. You know what I mean?
Really.
And those risks, when you start to shed your ego, they seem so easy to take those risks, because we got nothing but support in Canada.
100% we do. Dan, there's only like one more question I for sure have, and it's a question that we ask everybody on the show. Sorry, I got the burps from the beer here. What is your definition of cowboy shit, Dan?
My definition of cowboy shit is like, literally, I have a picture in my mind, and it can be either a bull or a bronc, and it's somebody literally, this is a tough one to pull off, but someone's got to do it in your company at some point, shotgunning a beer on an animal, literally while that animal's rearing up.
Oh, really?
Like that to me is like cowboy shit, because
That'd be cool.
it's like it's about like doing your own thing, not caring what anybody's thinking of you, not caring what the narrative is out there in the world about it. It's like literally like, I know I'm having fun, and I know it's fucking gonna look cool. Like, to me, it's like, that's the only reason we wanted to be involved with the brand.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I don't know if I can do that.
You gotta find somebody.
I could do it. Pardon? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But the thing with shotgun a beer, you'd probably have to have two hands, though. You'd have to be riding with no hands. Right?
Hey, man, that's your department.
Yeah, like,
I
could
got
see,
the
like,
vision.
drinking one when I'm riding something. I could see that, like, riding a horse and drinking a beer. We used to do that back in the day. You can ride your horse and drink a beer anytime. But
Sure.
to have it bucking at the same
it's a
time?
bit more than that, though.
you
It's
need
not
to be
just
the
riding
next level shit.
It's not just riding a horse having a beer. That is cool. It is cowboy shit. But to me, there's there's a little extra there.
It's true.
Where it's like, the name. It's like, people are like, oh, they're actually, they don't really care enough about what other people think. Obviously, because the name says cowboy shit.
True.
True. And it's like, we know we make good stuff. We know we're going to be involved in cool shit, and we're unapologetic.
Yeah.
So I feel like riding a horse, having a beer is one thing. Anybody can do that. But if you're like shotgunning and riding a horse, that's another thing.
And
if
it's
you're
bucking at the
rearing
same
up while
time.
you're doing it, that's a whole other thing.
I like it. Well, thanks, Dan. This was an awesome chat today. I'm not
I don't know, man. I've
anything.
talked a lot, but
Okay.
I appreciate you guys, and
Hey, we appreciate you. Thanks for making the beer happen. So once again, thanks to Cold Garden for making the Cowboy Ship beer happen. Mr. Dan Allard, thank you for doing the show with us this week, and have a great Stampede.
Yeah, if you find Ted on the circuit, he'll probably have some extra cans, it sounds like.
Yeah, I will.
Chase him down.
Yeah, come and get some Cowboy Ship beer from us out there, and we'll see you all out there, everybody. Thanks again, Dan. Thanks for having us. And
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Pop a top again. I've just got time for one more round. Set 'em up, my friend. Then I'll be gone and you can let some other fool sit down.
Well, thanks again. If you haven't tried the Cowboy Shit beer, thanks to our friends Dan, Allard, and Cold Garden. If you haven't tried it yet, you got to go check it out, folks. It's I brought a whole bunch of it to Pinoca here, even though it's Coors Rodeo or Bud or whoever it is. But anyways, I got a bunch of Cowboy Shit beer. So if you listen to this and you're coming to Pinoca, and you know that I'm going to be there, give me a shout and I'll get you some Cowboy Shit beer so you can try it out. But if you're in Calgary, check it out at Cold Garden in Inglewood. It's now being served, and yeah, I like it. I've already had one today. Gonna have another one here after the show. But yeah, I like the beer. It's a nice blonde ale, very crushable. I tried to shotgun one, but I can't shotgun beer, so I didn't do so good at that. But yeah, pretty fun. Thanks to those guys. Thanks to Dan for doing the show with us, and thanks to Cold Garden for making the beer happen.
I'll have to swing by there during Calgary and have one.
Come try it out. Yeah, we got lots at the house too.
Oh,
I buy it by the flat now. I bought 4 flats before we left to come up here. Okay, but Dustin, there was some wild stuff go down last week. The Titan Explorer goes down in on the searching for the Titanic, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but how do you go 4 miles underwater in a tin can like that? Holy shit.
Oh,
how did that thing survive the first couple times it made it? Holy crap, man. That is wild.
Yeah, I know that's not the usual topics of the podcast, but yeah, when you're seeing those guys, that's insane. I really got into it. When the search was on, I'm thinking where do you find this thing? And then of course it ended tragically. And then I started going down the rabbit hole of simulations of how that thing would have gotten collapsed by the pressure down there.
Holy shit.
Man,
so tell me about that though, because I haven't seen any of that, but I heard it's absolutely insane what it would have been like. It would have been like an underwater, not explosion, but implosion, because it's so fast.
Yeah, like in milliseconds, it would have crumpled to nothing.
Wow.
It's totally insane. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the remote they were using to drive that thing. It was like an old Xbox controller.
Yeah.
And these crazy bastards climbed in there, a little hole that big. I don't know, for 250 grand, I could have come up with a lot better stuff to do than go down to the bottom of the ocean and look for.
Holy yeah.
It's amazing how events like that, it's amazing how many younger generation people didn't know about the Titanic, and we grew up with the movie.
True. Yeah.
Now it's trending. Now it's trending on Google and Twitter, and it's getting a resurgence for all the wrong reasons. But
yeah.
Pretty freaking wild to drop into what looks like a giant propane tank. And
jeez, it's bad though that the safety concerns didn't get looked at. Somebody got sued and had to sign an NDA over it. How do you not? I don't know. I mean, people ride bulls and do rodeo stuff, so how do you? We're crazy too, but yeah. I mean, I guess we're not ones. We can't really knock it.
I mean, my first choice for my next vacation isn't underwater tin canning it to the Titanic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess not.
I think there's been some funny memes in light of a tragic situation. I've seen one. It was a giant farm propane tank, and it was now giving Red Deer River tours $5,000.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
Crazy shit happening in the world, but.
Rolling on. What's the next little bit? By the time this next show comes out, you'll be another year older, Dustin. What are you turning, 35 this year or what?
Yeah, 35. So we'll celebrate that hopefully down in kind of gearing up for Calgary. And then going to jump on and do a little radio this year at Calgary for some chuck wagons, which is a world I know nothing about. So
got some homework.
I got some homework to do. Jeez.
Yeah.
So we're going to be joining the broadcast crew at 9:10 a.m. for the last weekend of the chuck wagons, filling in for a buddy of mine. So if anyone out there in wagon land wants to send me tidbits,
have to have a call with Les.
Yeah, true or false. I'll say them. Put them on the prompter. I'll read them.
Awesome. Well, glad to hear you coming back to Calgary. And Barney's, it's been open for a while. How's she going? Or is it? Yeah, it was Father's Day weekend, or is it this weekend? It's coming up soon.
Yeah, we opened the last 2 weekends.
Weekend only,
but when the podcast comes out, will be opening the next day, the 29th, Thursday, and they're
Thursday.
7 days a week until September long weekend. So
Oh baby.
she's been rocking and rolling. Lots of people coming to check it out. So get to Drumheller, get to Barney's.
Heck yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I don't know what else I got this week. We make sure you get your Cowboy Sh beer. There's not a lot of it that we built. There's only a couple thousand cans, and I've already been through a few hundred. So personally, you're gonna need to go get that here pretty soon at Cold Garden. It's at a few select liquor stores, but if you want it, just go right there and get it. They got most of it there right at the shop. So check it out there. Merchandise, cowboyshit.ca. We got some new stuff in the works, gonna be coming out in the next couple months. That also, but yeah, man. You got anything else?
No, we had a fun photo shoot there a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
That was a heck of a good time. We had the pig races going, and me and Ted were doing a little dummy
with the dogs. Jeez.
Dyno trucks rolling. So that was a heck of a good time.
Turns out Pippa's a pig wrangler. She's a mean one.
Oh yeah. We had the wiener dog chasing the pig.
Chasing the pig. That was great.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
it's going to be a busy July, and looking forward to getting down to Calgary and hanging out with you guys, and gearing up for the next shows.
Sounds awesome. Well, once again, thanks to our editor Sean Morton, Storm Defoe on the graphics and the social media and the website. Dustin, thanks for joining me. Thanks for doing this first official show as the co-host, and we'll catch up with you again in a few weeks, I guess, eh?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Cowboy Sh once again. We'll see you all next time.
Here amongst the Betsy, I don't know if you can hear me, but I hear you coming in clear as a bell. Now heavens to Betsy, we'll finally quit the drinking. I hate and then my demons put you through hell. And I bet you're just as surprised as I am that ever let a sinner like me in. And I know I didn't do enough watching over you, but I will until I see you again. Now if you let me,